Please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber will hear the testimony of the Reverend Am Phuong. In fact, he has been invited to testify last week. However, due to the hearing of the testimony of an expert, his testimony has been postponed until today. The Reverend has been informed of the rights and obligations, as well as questions concerning his background has been asked by the chamber. Therefore, it is not necessary for parties to inquire about the background of the Reverends in order to save time. And Ms. Sakalwati, could you report the attendance of the parties and individuals to today's proceedings? Sakalwati, Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present, except for Mr. Noon Chi, who is present in the holding cell downstairs, as he requests to have his rights to be present in the main courtroom. His waiver has been delivered to the greffier, and the witness today, that is the Reverend Am Phuong, is present in the courtroom. We also have a reserve witness through TCW 934, and through his knowledge, he has no relationship by blood or by law through any of the two accused, Noon Chi or Khieu Samphan, nor to any civil party recognized in this case. The witness will take an oath before the Iron Statute this morning at 10 a.m. before his testimony. President, thank you, Mr. Sakalwati. The chamber now decides on the request by Noon Chi. The chamber has received a waiver from Noon Chi dated 16 February 2015, who states that due to his health, backache, dizziness, and headache, and that he cannot concentrate for long, and in order to prepare for effective participation in the future hearings, he waives his direct presence in the courtroom on 16 February 2015. Noon Chi has been informed by his counsel about the consequence of this waiver, that in no way it can be construed as a waiver of his rights to be tried fairly or to challenge evidence presented or admitted to this court at any time during his trial. Having seen the medical report of Noon Chi by the duty doctor at the ECCC, dated 16 February 2015, who notes that the health condition of Noon Chi in general remains unchanged. He has severe backache, dizziness, and cannot sit for long, and recommends that the chamber also allow him to follow the proceedings from a holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Noon Chi's request to follow the proceedings remotely from a holding cell downstairs via a audio-visual means. And as he waives his rights to be present in the main courtroom, the AV unit joins strategy to link the proceedings to the holding cell downstairs so that Noon Chi can follow it remotely, and that applies for today's proceedings. The Chamber would also like to inform the parties that today, due to the limited resources of the interpreters in the booth, the ITU and the Chamber tries our best to provide the service during the proceedings. For that reason, we request the parties to put questions slowly and leave sufficient pause between question and answer session so that the interpreters can properly interpret the proceedings. We would like now to hand the floor to the prosecution to put questions to Reverend Ampum. You please wait, and Counsel Coupe, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honours, Counsel. Mr. President, I'm sorry to stand up before the prosecution will start asking questions to the witness. But I would like to raise this issue now because I think it's relevant to this witness and it is an important issue. You might recall 3 weeks ago I stood up as well and asking clarification about 4 new statements added to our case, the case file, 4 statements coming from the investigation of case 4. I asked for clarification, and I asked on the 26th of April 2015, and I have the transcript in front of me, English ERN 010-60391, French 010602934, and Khmer 010608886 until page 7. I asked, and I read now from the transcript, I say my second question would be if these 4 statements, the release of these 4 statements, that's it, or are there more to come in relation to this segment? End of my own quote. The prosecutor, Mr. Lysak, replied, and I will read his answer to you again, and he says the following, and I quote again, there have been some additional statements. None of them, to my knowledge, involve trial witnesses, but requests have been made. And when authorization is provided for these new statements, they will be disclosed too. But they do not relate to trial witnesses. And then he says, and I quote, it's a pretty small number to my recollection too. Last Friday, we were informed by the prosecution that another 20 statements coming from case 4 will be served upon us this morning. Nobody came, so we didn't receive them yet. I'm not sure how the 20 statements relate to a pretty small number, but what is more concerning is that there is a strong rumor, and I don't know if that is correct, but that there are in fact hundreds of statements coming from case 4 are on the way to be added to the case file. Now, if that is true, I think we have a serious situation because we are ongoing with examining witnesses. I do not know what is in these statements. You don't know also, I think. So my question really is also in relation to the earlier answer of the prosecution. Is this what some called after the Hungarian or Italian sausage, salami tactics, feeding it in small numbers, or is there something else going on? And I would really like to know because it potentially could affect this witness, I don't know. It could affect the next witnesses, I don't know. But if it's true that hundreds of case 4 statements are coming our way, I think that is unacceptable. And then we need, maybe, I don't know if we will, but we need to possibly request for suspending the proceedings until we are able to read all those statements. So again, apologize for bringing this up now, but I think it could potentially relate to this witness. That's why I'm asking the question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to all. I can only align myself with the defense team of Mr. Nunchia and subscribe wholly to the comments made by Counsel Koppe. There is, in effect, a problem with this process. We raised with Mr. Lysak the fact that the number was increasing by the day. We have absolutely zero visibility or clarity on the exact number of statements that are forthcoming. As I've understood, I thought it required the authorization of the co-investigating judges, but the co-prosecutors need to know exactly how many statements they would require before conveying them. That's the first point. The second is this. On this side of the courtroom, we perhaps do not share the same philosophy or view on the case file. And so long as we do not have the statements in hand, and so long as we have not been able to apprise ourselves of them, so long as we've not been able to confront ourselves with the evidence, we cannot formulate our own opinion. So once again, I would insist on the fact that this is a matter of proper preparation in order for the proper conduct of trial, in order to allow a proper adversarial hearing to unfold. This is a requirement that we have to fulfill as defense lawyers as well. We therefore seek a clarification on the exact number of documents that will be conveyed and exactly what was requested of the co-investigating judges. And once that information is in hand, we would be able to organize ourselves accordingly.
President, the Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Thank you, and good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors. Good morning to all parties. First and foremost, I deplore the fact that this debate is occurring now, since we have very little time, as it were, to examine the witness. It is already 9:20. However, I do want to address the concerns of the defense. They talk about tactics, or the salami tactic, as it were. The co-prosecutors have an obligation to convey to the parties the written records of witness interviews that are related to case file 2, because such information may contain exculpatory information, and it may also regard information that is related to case 2/2. This is a process. This is an ongoing process. It involves copies of written records. It also involves the translations of these written records, and therefore it is impossible to give definitive figures on an immediate basis. This is an ongoing basis. This is not a matter of tactics, but we've had to ask for the authorization of the co-investigating judges in order to disclose these statements. Therefore, we cannot go any more expeditiously than capacity allows. Therefore, we will provide any clarification that the Chamber requires, and I would draw the attention of the parties that this is an ongoing process. This is not a matter of deploying tactics. We are following the due diligence and procedure necessary in order to disclose these documents to all parties to the best of our capacity. Thank you, Mr. President.
President, the International Lead Co-Lawyer for Civil Parties, you have the floor.
Thank you, President. Just a very brief observation. Since we find ourselves in the exact same position as the Defense Counsel, we, as civil party lawyers, do not have access to case file 2. Therefore, there is no visibility of the documents that are being produced, we find ourselves in the exact same positions as our learned colleagues across the way. What is essential is the ascertainment of the truth, and for that to occur, these interviews must take place, and we have the responsibility to use those documents in the proper time, and we should be able to dispose of the required amount of time to read those documents. This process must move forward, and the civil parties will also have to adapt with these circumstances. It's not easy, but this process of disclosure is ongoing in order to allow the overall process to continue.
Very, very briefly, Mr. President, in reply to the prosecutor's answer, I appreciate fully that co-investigating judges or legal officers working for the co-investigating judges have to review these statements, these documents. But surely the prosecution knows how many documents they requested to be reviewed. I mean, there's a process of reviewing, but there's also a request. So is the rumor correct that there are in fact hundreds of statements coming our way or not? And if not, what is the number that we're talking about? So I think the prosecution would be very well capable of giving an answer to that very concrete question.
President. The Chamber would like now to give the floor to Judge France to ask for a certain clarifications on this issue. Judge France, you have the floor.
The first question is to counsel, might have been a translation issue. You mentioned an ERN. That was a reference to your original question in court. Is that correct? Yeah. Next question is to OCP. Refers to this witness only. Of the documents you are aware of and that are about to be disclosed, does any of them impact on this witness?
Well, frankly speaking, no, Your Honor. There is no statement that's going to have an immediate consequence on the testimony of the venerable witness today.
So much for this witness. Now for the general situation, which is obviously unusual and fluent and potentially problematic. Our first question is, and I'm not sure you haven't answered it anyway, but how many, can you make an assessment, or are you aware how many documents will come or are still to come?
Your Honor, I do not have this figure in mind. If I had received an email, I could have prepared myself and provided you with the exact figures, but I think that our office will be able to provide this figure during this day to all of the parties. I know that there are a certain number of written records involving the work sites, that is to say the next segment of the trial, which are still being revised and analyzed by the investigating judges. And I think this represents about 60 documents, if I'm not mistaken. But as far as the rest is concerned, I won't be able to provide you with an exact figure. I risk, in fact, being mistaken.
And I understand the investigation in these cases is still ongoing. To the best of your knowledge, the interviews produced now or in the next months, will they impact on case 2? So can you say with any certainty how many documents are actually affected at this point in time?
Your Honor, this is a secret. We don't have access to this information. The investigating judges protect their investigations, so they do not forward this kind of information to us. What I know is that there will probably be a certain number of written records that might be linked to forced marriage that will come up in the weeks or the months to come. But aside from that, I do not know. I believe that only the investigating judges will be able to answer that question.
Well, as mentioned, this is a slightly unusual and fluent and potentially problematic situation. The Chamber will consider how to deal with it generally. As to this witness, and based on the information we got from OCP, we'll go ahead.
The President, Mr. Co-Prosecutor, you may proceed. Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors, and all parties to proceedings, and also Reverend M. Phuong, M. Ratanak. I'm the National Co-Prosecutor of the ECCC. I have a number of questions related to the treatment of the Buddhist monks and Buddhists from 1975 through 1979. Earlier, you told to the OIJ 3351 13, ERN 00165 to 63, English ERN 0022 31 97 and 0070 33 2. And you said that in 1925 you were evacuated from Phnom Penh and to further to Ang Raka Pagoda. I would like to know at that time Ang Raka Pagoda, where was it located, in a commune or a district? Respond. Ang Raka Pagoda is in Chiang Tong commune, Tram Kok district, Takeo province. In Chiang Tong commune. In Tram Kok district, Takeo province. Question. How long did you take from Phnom Penh to arrive Ang Raka Pagoda in your trip? Response. Yes, it took me a long time to be there. I don't remember. It took me about 1 month or 2. I had traveled on foot from Phnom Penh to the pagoda. Question. During your trip from Phnom Penh to Ang Raka Pagoda, did you receive any mistreatment or any ill treatment from the Khmer Rouge or any official of the Khmer Rouge along the road? Response. Along the road, I received no mistreatment, nothing, because there were many people evacuated from Phnom Penh. Question. In addition to that, have you seen any mistreatment towards other Buddhists or any other monks along the road? Answer. When I left Phnom Penh, I didn't witness any mistreatment because there were many people evacuated and some other monks. Other people left earlier and other left later than that. But along the road, we had difficulty have a sleeping area and also food shortage along the road. Question. During your travel, was it you who chose your destination to that pagoda, or who did the one who tell you to go to that place? Response. On the 17th of April, I was living in Sambumir in Phnom Penh, and at 10 p.m. and the liberated soldier ordered us to leave Phnom Penh. I asked, where should I go? And he told me that you should go to your hometown. They were small soldiers. I can say they were boys soldier. So where should I go, comrade? And he told me that you should go to your hometown. And I told him I was from Cambodia. And he told me you should go there. And I worked from 10 p.m. until early in the morning. I could reach another pagoda in Phnom Penh, not far. Question. the final destination I would like to hear from you is Angkoroka Pagoda. Did you have any option to go to Angkoroka by yourself, or was it anyone who forced you or who directed you to go to that pagoda? Response: because I used to live there, so I was not forced to go to that destination because I used to live there before. Question: did you have any choice other than Angkoroka for you to go? Respond: it was my hometown. I used to live there. That's all I can tell you. Question: when you arrived in Angkoroka Pagoda, did you see other monks there? Were there any Buddhists who are lay people inside or around that pagoda? Response: when I arrived in Angkoroka, my monks teachers all was there, and some other monks were also stay in Angkoroka, and they were all coming to Angkoroka to stay in that pagoda when I arrived. Question: reference. Can you tell the court how many monks were there at the time? The President, reference, please wait until the microphone is activated. You can see it, the red light on it. So could you please wait? At that time, I did not count the number of monks. But the monks were told to stay there, and they will order them to build canal at Tropang on Dak. And later they were sent to do that construction of the canal at Tropang on Dak. Question: earlier you told the court that other monks were from other places and pagoda to stay in Angkoroka. Did you know where they were from? Did you ask any of the monks as regard their previous pagodas? Response: those monks who came to stay at Angkoroka, most of them came from Takeo province. They were told to stay in this pagoda to be ready to do other work for the new regime. Question: when you arrived at Angkoroka and immediately after your arrival, what did you do, and who told you to do that kind of work? Response: on my first arrival, I was not ordered to do anything, but later we were told that you cannot be staying as a monk. Any monk should leave monkhood or should be defrocked, and they will not allow anyone to be in a monkhood. But at my first arrival, we were not doing anything, just stay and wait to be ready for the next order. Question: how long did you stay freely and not doing anything to be ready for the next order? Answer: it was not long, because Angkar will not let anyone to be free for longer. But all we did during that time, we had to cook for ourselves, and we need to collect vegetable and some supplies to cook for our meals. Question: before the OCIJ, you said that in document E3 5133, Khmer ERN, page 4, 0016 52 61, English ERN, page 4, 0022 3200, and French ERN, page 4 and 5, ERN 0070 23 35 through 36. You said that after a time they forced the monks to grow cassava with their robe on, and no one will serve any monk at all, so everyone had to work for the regime. End of quote. Based on your statement to the OCIJ and your earlier statement to the court, to the trial chamber, I know that there was a small discrepancy in your statement. So which of your response would you stand by? Respond. So could you tell me the discrepancy? I don't know. I don't understand. Co-prosecutor, the discrepancy was that you say here before the chamber that after your arrival at Wat Angraka, you have some free time, but in your statement to the OCIJ, you said that all monks, including you, were directed or ordered to do the labor with your robe on as a monk. So I would like to know for sure from you, were you ordered to do labor with your robe on, or you have some free time for a while at Angraka, and later after you were defrocked and then you were ordered to do the labor? Answer. Let me tell you my experience. So I spent a period of time, I didn't do anything, and later Angkar came and told us to do the dam construction at Trapangadag. So no one could be free, so everyone had to do labor for the regime. So at the beginning, we had a bit of free time, and later Angkar came and told us to go to do a construction of the dam. So were you doing that when you still a monk? Yes, response. Question. The construction of canal and dam, was it a normal practice for the monk to do that before the Khmer Rouge? Respond. Could you repeat your question, prosecution? I don't catch that. Prosecutor, I would like to know the labor you did, including building canal at Trapang and Dak. Was it the normal labor for the monks before the Khmer Rouge regime or in the previous regime? Answer. No, it was not a practice for the monk. It's only after the liberation by the Khmer Rouge that they order us to do those kind of labor. But monks were not doing anything during the earlier regime. So we were forced, we were ordered to do those labor in our robe as monks. Question. Could you or can you refuse to do those order to do labor? Respond. No one would complain or refuse the order, so no one refused. We had to follow their order. Question. Talking about working condition, so what were your working hours and how about your meals as a monk when you do labor during that time? Response. So we were doing the same labor as the lay people. So we start from 6 a.m. until 11 o'clock, and then we start 1 p.m. until 6 p.m., the same as other people. Question. Did you witness any other monks who refused to follow the order of the Khmer Rouge? If so, can you tell the court an incident that you witnessed? Answer. I didn't see anyone opposing or refusing to do any labor, so everyone followed the order. Question. When you were staying at Angroka Pagoda, was there any practice or were there any Khmer Rouge cadre or any people pay respect or offer anything to monks as they were in the past? Answer. At that time, the monks were at work sites. They were not at the pagoda. They had to do labor for the regime. Question. A while ago, you told the court that soon after your arrival at the pagoda, you were still in your robe. And then I would like to know and that there was no one pay respect no one offer you any alms food for the monks. Could you do any practice as praying or doing sermon or preaching as you did earlier at the pagoda? Answer. The duty of the monks. So we were so strong with the religion. We would do our pray and our sermon quietly without anyone noticed. Question. Talking about relation between other monks in the pagoda, could any lay people or other villager contact you or meet you to offer anything to the monk? Answer. There were some old people who came and met with the monks, and they would meet with the monks when they just arrived. But only all elderly people who were at the pagoda at the time. Question. Was there any prohibition for any contact with the monks? The President, Prosecutor, could you ask your question again? Question. Was there any prohibition of any contact for monks and other villagers, or what are the reasons behind that? Answer. At the beginning it was not so strict, and after a month or two after the arrival of the 17 April people, we could make some contact with the old people who were living in the local area. So we knew something from them, and they told us that Venerable, you cannot stay in the pagoda and practice in a way that you did before. You should go and work for the Angkar. This is what I heard from all those old people. Question. When you arrived at the pagoda and stay in Wat Angkar, how long did you stay before you were ordered to the frak? The President, when reference, could you be mindful with the microphone so it is not activated? Response. In 1975 until 1976, the monks keep living monkhood, and in 1976 no monk left in a monkhood, because they all monks left the monkhood in 77, and those monks could not stay in the monkhood, and the Khmer rules told them that you could not stay in your robe as a monk anymore. You have to do the labor, because the time and the regime is now different than before. That's all.
Question. What about you yourself, Reverend? When were you instructed to leave the monkhood? Answer. It was in 1976. Question. When you left the monkhood, was there a ceremony for that process? Did you do it following the Buddhist practice? Answer. At that time, nobody wanted to do that. However, it was the Angka who instructed us to do so. They then gave us clothing and shoes, and it was in black color. And then we were told that we should leave the monkhood before the end of 1976. Question: was any ceremony held for that? Answer: no, there was nothing. There was no ceremony at all. And one after another, the monk had to leave the monkhood. Younger monks had to leave the monkhood first, and then the other monks would follow. Question: when you were ordered to leave the monkhood, was a monk instructed to lead the monkhood at the time, or was there a ceremony for groups of monks, or was there a ceremony organized by Angka? A ceremony here, I mean, was there a meeting or a gathering for certain monks? Answer. At that time, I was in charge of all the monks there, and I was called to a meeting that Angka had liberated the country and that nobody would serve nobody else, and everybody had to work based on the instruction of Angka. And nobody would have free time anymore. Everybody had to engage in labor, everybody with no exception. And the time was now different from the previous regime. Then we were given clothes, that is a shirt and a pants and a pair of shoes. And then we were instructed that we had to leave the monkhood in a month's time, and then to go and engage in building dams or dig canals. And that's what was instructed by Angka. Question: am I right to say that the person who was in charge of the commune there held a meeting where you were instructed to leave the monkhood, and that was the time you left the monkhood? Answer: it was a meeting where plans were delivered, and later on we were given the clothing. That is at another separate occasion. Question: you just stated that you were called to a meeting by a person who was in charge of a commune. Was he male or female? Was the person male or female? Answer: it was a man. Question: at that time, what did that person say about his position in the commune? Answer: he presented himself as a member of the commune in charge of the youth. Question: did he come alone, or was he accompanied by other people? Answer: he came along with the militia. Question: Had you known that person who was in charge of the commune before, who came to chair that meeting? Answer: I knew some of them, but not all, because some of those who came were rather young. Question: besides that meeting about the plans that Buddhist monks had to leave the monkhood, was there other meetings held, for example, a weekly meeting or a monthly meeting or an urgent meeting where you personally attended? Answer: at that time, a meeting was convened every month in order to strengthen the stance of the youth and everyone else. Question: in all those meetings, what did they say about Buddhist religion? Here I refer to the meetings that you attended while you were staying at Ongroka Pagoda. Reverend, please ask the question again, as I did not get it well. Question: you stated that there were meetings where they instructed on the strengthening of the stance. And my question to you is that while you were staying at Ongroka Pagoda, in those meetings, did they mention anything about Buddhist religion? Answer: Angka, including the commune authority, stated that now everything was different from the previous regimes, which was capitalist. And now there was no longer capitalist, and everything had to be done according to Angka's instruction. And nobody would serve nobody else. Everybody had to strive to work hard, to have a common meal and to work together. Because in the previous regime, some people did not work and had a free time. And now it would be different, as everybody has to engage in labor. Question: during that period of time, did you know other Buddhist monks who either died or disappeared? Answer: some monks only died when they were leaving Phnom Penh or when they were leaving the provincial towns of a certain provinces. That is during the time of the 17th April 1975. And at that time, somebody Hutat was there, and there were about 20 other monks who were also there in Phnom Penh. Later on, they all had disappeared, and I did not know where they went. Question: my question to you is about Buddhist monks in Takai province. Did you know if any of the monks in the province died or was killed or disappeared during that time? Answer. Only one monk who died, and he was my friend. He died to the east of Svai Prey, that is near the market area. He told me that 3 monks were tortured and killed by Angkar as they opposed the Angkar's instructions. Question. Later on, after you left the monkhood, were you considered a former monk, a peasant, or a capitalist, or a new person? Answer. I was considered a 17th April person. Question. Were you ordered to fill in a biography? Reverend, please respond again. Please repeat your question, prosecutor. Reverend, were you ordered to write your biography? Answer. No, I was not ordered to do so. Question. Later on, what were you ordered to do? Answer. At that time, I was amongst the youth. Question. And where were you assigned to work? Answer. In fact, there were 2 provinces where I worked in. I was then returned to Kampot province because my relatives lived in Kampot. But because I ordained and stayed at Aroka, and after I left the monkhood, I returned to Kampot province as part of the youth group. Question. What I want to ask you is in relation to your activities and experience within Takay province only. Answer. I worked as part of the youth group, digging canals and building dams. Question. Can you tell us the location? Answer. It was right in Angroka. Some of us were divided to Trapang and Dak, and we stayed and worked at Angroka. Question. What was the working condition like? Answer. Please repeat your question. Prosecutor, I'd like to ask you about your personal experience during the time that you were instructed to work at the Tropang on Dike. What was the working condition like? Answer. youth was the stronger force compared to the adult, to the older people. We were the main force in dealing with digging canals and building dams or engaged in dry season farming. Question: who was your chief or supervisor at the time? Answer: please repeat your question. Prosecutor: while you were working there, who was your supervisor? Answer: I did not know who was my supervisor at the time. Question: so, who actually ordered you to engage in that kind of work? Let me repeat your question. Under whose instruction did you engage in working in that area? Answer: we were divided into groups, from units and from units into groups, and I was within a group. Question: was there any work quota for you to complete? Answer: as for digging canal, it was 30 meters long, 2 meters deep, and 5 meters for the top part, and for the bottom part is 3 meters wide. And that's for a group of 30 people to complete within a month's time. President, the time is appropriate for a short break. We'll take a break now and return at 10:30 to continue our proceedings. Court officer, please assist the reverend during the break. I invite him through the courtroom again at 10:30. We are now in recess.
សូមចេញក្រោកឈរ